Hi everybody, this is the last little bit of the homeothermy lecture. And we already looked over structures of teeth and some different terminology related to teeth and how teeth work by having occlusal surfaces that mash against each other. Now we're going to look a little bit at different types of digestive systems and some of the diversity of digestive systems within the mammals and how that relates to the different types of foods that mammals eat. So before we kind of put both halves together, I want to just set up the kinds of digestive tracts and parts of the digestive system that we'll be talking about and the terminology that refers to the different kinds of food that mammals eat. So this shows a few different varieties of digestive tracts of mammals. And the basic parts that we're going to be comparing here, the first are the teeth and sometimes the tongue. After the food is processed and swallowed in the mouth and it's swallowed down, the next place it goes is into the stomach. From there, it moves into the small intestine and eventually into the large intestine and out through the anus, whatever doesn't get digested. Some species have a structure called a cecum, which is a blind pouch that usually occurs right at the juncture of the small intestine and the large intestine. So we're going to be talking about all these different parts and how they differ depending on what the mammal eats. Then the modes of foraging that we're going to be looking at can be broken down into a few basic categories. So we've got 5 basic categories here. The first is insectivory, and you could think of this as a subset of carnivory. Carnivory is eating other animals. Insectivory is eating other mammals that are insects or arthropods. Insectivory can happen in a couple of different contexts. One is aerial, so this refers to bats that fly around through the air and eat insects. We also have terrestrial insectivores, which are mammals that run around on the ground and eat insects in that environment. And then we have a very specialized form of insect eating called myrmecophagy, and that refers to ant eating or termite eating. For some of these kinds of feeding, I have a link to video. I'm not going to show the videos now, but when you go back over the lecture outlines, I invite you to explore the different videos, especially if you like watching videos of mammals like I do. And you can see what ant eating looks like and what different kinds of carnivory look like and what different kinds of herbivory look like. So for carnivory, we also have a few different contexts where it can happen, and that has repercussions for the dentition and also for the structure of the digestive system. So terrestrial carnivores are things that we typically think of as carnivores, like wolves and tigers and lions. So they're running around in a terrestrial environment and eating other mammals or other kinds of animals that also occur in a terrestrial environment. There are also aquatic carnivores. So those are things like dolphins and seals that are eating other animals, but in an aquatic environment. Then finally, we have, again, a very specialized form of carnivory, which is sanguinivory, and that refers to blood feeding. We only have one kind of mammal that feeds exclusively on blood, and that's the vampire bat. And if you want to see a cool video about how vampire bats feed and some of the specializations that are involved with vampire bat blood feeding, you can consult the video. Then we have herbivory as a major category, and there are quite a few different strategies that mammals have for feeding on plant material and being herbivores. So the first 2 refer to different architectures of the digestive tract that are very common among herbivores. Ruminants are herbivores that have a complex stomach structure. They have one stomach, but it's partitioned into several components, usually 3 or 4. And the food spends a good amount of time in each one of the compartments as it's being processed and broken down by enzymes and broken down by microbes in those different components of the digestive tract. And that allows the ruminants to extract a lot of nutrition out of the food that they eat. If you think about what they're eating plant material. Plant cells are surrounded by a cell wall of cellulose, and cellulose is really, really hard for mammals to break down. That's because mammals don't produce the enzyme that's capable of breaking down cellulose. The enzyme is called cellulase, and mammals don't produce it. But microbes do produce it. So microbes are able to digest cellulose, digest plant material really easily. So what ruminants do is they have colonies of microbes within their stomach and within their gut that digest the plant material, and then that sort of breaks open the cells and allows the mammals to digest the contents of the cells. And they also digest the microbes that are breaking up those cell walls. So they get their nutrition from that combination of things that are in their digestive tract. Hindgut fermenters do the same thing, but they do it in a different place in their digestive tract. So instead of having a very complicated stomach, they have a simple stomach that has one main pouch. And then farther along in their digestive tract, they have a very, very large cecum, which is full of microbes that produce cellulase and can break down cellulose, break down the plant cell walls. So they're doing the same thing as the ruminants, only a little farther along in their digestive tract. Another food source that many mammals use is seeds, and that's called granivory. Got a really cute video here of a chipmunk putting seeds in its cheek pouches. For granivorous mammals, they tend to collect seeds outside in their environment and then bring them all back to a safe place like a nest or a burrow where they'll eat them at their leisure. So they'll store some of them, eat some of them and store some of them for later. Folivory refers to eating plants, especially the leafy parts of the plants. And this is a very, very low energy source of nutrition. So mammals don't have an easy time breaking down plant material to begin with. And if they concentrate almost entirely on eating leaves, like some species do, then they get very little nutrition. And as a result, many folivores have very, very low metabolic rates. So we'll see if we can pull this up. So here's a sloth, which is a typical folivore. All right, frugivory refers to eating fruits, and this is usually not the only thing that mammals that eat fruits eat, because it's very high in carbohydrates, very low in protein and fiber. So frugivores usually either have an omnivorous diet where they eat some other things along with the fruits, or like fruit-eating bats, they'll eat nectar and pollen along with the fruits. So that brings us to nectivory, that is specializing on eating or drinking the nectar that's produced by flowers. This is a very sugary substance that's produced by plants to attract in potential pollinators. So as the mammal is
Upwork has the world's largest network of proven independent professionals. It's like having a go-to graphic designer right here.
So here we have our nectivorous bat, also a fruit-eating bat, but at the moment it is licking up the nectar that is in the flower. Then we have gummivory, which is eating gum. And gum is the substance, the sap that comes out of trees. So the species that do this is mainly primates. will use their teeth to create a wound in the tree, and the sap oozes out, and then they'll eat that. And that is a considerable part of the diet for some very small primate species. Then we have filter feeding. Filter feeding occurs mostly in baleen whales, which don't have teeth, but instead have long strands of keratin, the protein that makes up hair and nails. Those strands of keratin hang down from the upper jaw, and as the water rushes in, the whales are able to strain the little living organisms that are in the water and separate those from the water itself so they can swallow down those organisms and eat them. So those organisms are referred to as krill. They're almost microscopic in size. And I'm going to show this video really quickly of, I believe it's a blue whale swimming through a big pod of krill, and you can see it. It's shot by it's shot from above so that you can see the krill and you can see the whale and see it open its mouth and just swallow in huge amounts of krill from the water's surface. And you can see the krill right here. It's going to open up its mouth. Watch it open its mouth right there and swim through the water, and it's taking in water and krill, and then it closes its mouth and squishes out the water, and it's left just with krill. Finally, we have omnivory, which just means eating a little bit of everything. This is a kind of funny video about bears and all the things that they eat. So humans are technically omnivores, pigs are omnivores, bears are omnivores. It just means that they eat plant material and animal material and insects and just a little bit of everything as part of their normal diet.